Hey everyone, I'm Mstyslav Chernov. I'm really honored to be talking with extraordinary team of film. Rovina's choice. Tom Jennings is director, Annie Wong director, Yiel Awat producer, and Simon Kilmurry is executive producer. Guys, it's an honor to be able to have time to talk to you about your film. I really, really deeply was impacted by it, and congratulations on making it to the Academy shortlist. It's very, very well deserved. Also, as good as it can be, people can actually watch it right now on the YouTube and on the New Yorker website, which is for films like yours, socially important and social impact films. I think that's the main goal, to reach as bigger audience as possible. And again, thank you for talking to me. I would say your film is emotional. I would say your film is impactful, is deep, and that's how we should describe it. Not as hard to watch. Yes, we are talking about topics that are important and not entertaining, but also we are as humans can't just live without talking about these important topics. And I know it's not easy to make you work in a crisis environment. It takes part of your soul, especially if you live there. Yeah, I wanted to start with you, if I may. I wanted to ask you, you witness every day the tragedies, you witness every day the hardships in your country. And when you have an opportunity to speak and to help to tell those stories, how do you even wrap your head about where to start? Like how to choose this story out of millions of people who are impacted? And how do you find that voice that will encapsulate everything?
This is a hard question to answer because the first place is even that sometimes um, it getting that chance itself, the chance to actually to be able to tell what is there, what you know, the issues that are around, good things and bad things at the same time. Getting that potential alone, it's not something as easy as sometimes you get. Many journalists would want to tell it, from their own point of view or from their own perspective, and getting that chance itself, uh, it's something very precious, for you to be able to tell things that you live, things that I experience, things that I see in everyday life. Of course, for me, they're very normal. Um, these are things that I interact with um, daily.
How did you find Rovina? How did you come up with choosing her as the voice, her story to represent what's happening?
We were given a mandate on January 20th when Donald Trump decided to sign an executive order cutting foreign aid. And from that moment forward, the death of U.S. aid was kind of inevitable, and everybody knew that there was going to be dramatic consequences. People's lives were at stake. We immediately picked up and decided to go find that consequence, those impacts. We ended up in Kakuma in northern Kenya. It's one of the largest refugee camps in the world where Yiel lives. We met Yiel and started collaborating and started looking for these stories. And I have to say, it was terribly unfortunate, but they were very easy to find. People were suffering immediately. It was documentable. We went to Clinic 7, one of the medical clinics in the camp,
Yeah.
and we found a whole host of emergency cases of people who had suffered the indignity of losing food and losing access to food, and their children were dying. Unfortunately, there were many choices. There are many cases that we could have looked at, and Ravina was there that day. Yael was with us. Our colleague Marcia Robio was with us. And we made contact with her there at that stabilization ward, which takes care of severe malnutrition. That's how we met her.
But how do you even choose the country? There are so many countries in the world that were impacted. I imagine you hearing this news, you knowing that millions of people will be affected, and then I can see how your head starts working, right? What do I do? Where do I go? And so how that choice was made.
A lot of this was led by our by Atul Gawande, with whom we're working on this film, and he was the former head of global health for USAID under Biden. And his big concern was what was going to happen to a lot of the programs that he had um, put forward in Kenya. And Kenya, as he always describes, it's a middle income country that has got this huge range of pockets of doing well, and then you've got Kakuma there, as Tom said, one of the largest refugee camps, and I think that is probably where it was going to hit first at the most vulnerable, which is why we wanted to go there. I mean, we had also traveled around Nairobi and to the west of Africa as well, west of Kenya as well, and you do see the impacts like across the board. So um, I think Kenya offered um, a lot of results from what happened with the cuts of USAID across all economic spectrum, the whole economic spectrum.
The choice is the theme of the film, right? The hard choice that Rovina has to make, and the choice that you had to make where to go and whose story to tell. And I feel that this is just such a right time for this story because we are sort of up. I have this feeling that we are like on the break of different times of human history.
Mm.
And right now, humanity makes that choice where it will go. I think just making connection between those choices, between those big choices and this and the tragic that do not really impact people who make them, and connecting them to people who are faced with life and death choices, or worst, even life or death of their children choices. And that's what I think is extraordinary in a juxtaposition. What I see the juxtaposition of the of the news in your film, of officials talking, and then the real life impact of that. But I think it's a metaphor of what is our life and what is what is our world is going through. As a documentary filmmakers, how do you choose the language for that? Your your film is your language, but then it's so tragic. It's juxtaposed with all the official statements, but also it's very intimate. But so how do you tell me more about this language, visual language you use to talk about this?
The visual language was determined by the landscape itself and by the people that we interacted with. You can't be helped but moved by all of the stories of these folks, of these people who are living lives of enforced deprivation. And as you say so eloquently, it's really not a choice. It's not a choice. It's a reaction to circumstance. So the visual language is an attempt that we employed was an attempt just to be a fly on the wall and to understand, let the people's lives come out of their own personal experiences. We worked with two people who did that for us. One is Yiel, who is a new cinematographer, picked up a camera and had an amazing visual aesthetic that
Yael, great work.
it's incredible, the shots that he got. Uh, the other is Joan Pojo, who's a Nairobi-based documentary filmmaker and DP. Together, their eye and framing for this space is very local. It's, we came in as outsiders, but we desperately wanted a local eye. And that's what we ended up getting with these two wonderful craftspeople. And I think the visual frame that you see that you're talking about, the language, is really due to them, to their local perspective on something that we as outsiders were desperately trying to symbolically represent.
Yeah, could you tell us more? Could you tell me more about life in that camp? And just I know there is so much in a film, but I wanted to feel your perspective even more. When I saw the film, I wanted to know more. It just draws me in and reminds me about that there is so much more. We all live in our small crises or big crises, and it feels like the crisis we live in is the only crisis on a planet because it just impacts us. But there is so much more to talk about. There's so much more to see. So, could you tell me more about your life there?
I mean, Kakuma itself, um, to many, to almost 310,000 people, it's home, and it's daily life. I would say I'm told it was started in June 1992, and it's now almost 3 decades. And life itself is not that easy. It's very hard, but people are really, tamaking it. People they find the ways to um, go on, day by day, with hope that things would get better. Most people here in the camp are people who flee their countries either because of war or sometimes crisis, climate, hunger, and they find refuge here. But not it, like for them, it's not the final place. Everybody here wishes that someday they would be better person and go to school. They uh, become the persons of their dreams. There are no job opportunities there for refugees, and like life is daily struggle. That's how I would put it.
Yiel describes it so eloquently, what life is like on the ground there. But the reality is that for most people in the US, they know nothing about that. And when USAID was shut down, I think there's a perception, kind of popular misperception, that we're sending billions and billions and billions of dollars, wasting that money that should be spent supporting people in the United States. But the reality is, it's a few dollars per person per year that was being used to support USAID. I think it's what, Tom, and you correct me, it's like $24, $25 per person per year. What the film's trying to do through allowing Rovina to share her story is to put a human face on the consequences of a callous policy decision. I want to go back to that word choice in the title, which is a very kind of deliberate decision. It alludes to the classic William Styron novel, Sophie's Choice, where something is presented as a choice for someone, but it's really not. It's a decision between one dreadful outcome and another dreadful outcome, and that's what these policy decisions have wrought and are doing so on a daily basis, and also the claims that the administration has made that no one will die on their watch is just factually untrue. So I think, in trying to tell this story, it's about putting a face on and raising awareness here about what the impact of decisions that are being made in our name. I think Yiel and Tom and Annie and Atul have done a great service in in helping Rovina get her story out into the world to illustrate that.
What outcome would be the dream outcome for you? Say this film gets all the attention possible, and I really wish it would. What impact are you searching with this film?
I think the impact would be just to understand that money sent for foreign aid like this is not a waste, that it does serve the American public to be invested in these other countries' development. Um, that's my biggest hope is really just opening people's eyes to understand we're not just throwing money away. In some country, they don't understand the people or feel like it's, why aren't we using the money here for this country? Why are we using it for them? That's my biggest hope. I'm not, sure if I speak for everybody else here.
Like the $4 or the $3 that person gets, just like a place in Kakuma, it's actually saving their life, and it's not a waste at all. Saving a life means a lot. I think that's my biggest hope.
The US has been the biggest, provider of international aid, but it's not just the United States, because these types of decisions, the questioning of, kind of countries pulling back into their shells is not just happening here. We're seeing it happen elsewhere. And I think when the US makes a decision like this, it gives permission to other Western countries to reduce their commitment. So it has a multiplying effect, which I think is terrifying.
I think, Mstyslav, that the thing about your films that I find very powerful and that very influential for us actually is how you've been able to document a reality, a moment in time that's very contemporary and in our faces in a lot of ways, and challenging us to just look, to watch and see. Uh, and we've taken that lesson and have tried to apply it here, to challenge people to just say, stop, wait, look, listen, and stoke some outrage, to be honest. It's hard to be there as an outsider and not get very angry about this kind of stuff. And I feel like that's one of the outcomes, the impact that I want is to get people a little upset, to challenge the sense of the security that people have at home and make them sit up and pay attention. And as documentary filmmakers, I think that's, like you said earlier, a lot of what we can only do and hope for is discussion to come from this, for people to talk about this. So I'm hoping that the impact comes at that level, is it impacts people's ways of thinking and challenges people and sparks a little outrage.
I really wish that there's people who are making decisions will see your film, but also because I think we I guess we may know that because we see it, but I wish more people knew how um, the prosperity of other countries around the world, or at least good life of the countries around the world, benefit their own country. I think people see US aid as charity, which it really isn't. It is a systematic support of countries that, when they get out of the crisis, become vital allies to United States, to Europe. They don't. It's not just about politics. It's also about what I see. It's also about when um, millions of people get out of poverty, when millions of people start to work, when millions of people invest their money in businesses, invest their money in research, in education, that benefits the entire humanity. Those more than 300,000 people who right now live in, with $4 a day, if they had decent education, if they did not have to make these horrifying choices, which are not really choices, which of their children would live, they would invest their talent and their time and their lives into making humanity better. So actually, helping someone is in many ways helping you and helping humanity to thrive. And that's the thought I really hope that gets to people, that it's not, again, that it's not charity. It's a work for the benefit of the entire humanity.
There's no question about
But
that. I think, Mr. Flab, you're absolutely right in saying this is not just a charitable venture. By helping to support people's nutrition and health, we are building more stable regions. We are, making sure that, communicable diseases remain under control. There's so many
yeah,
benefits. It's incalculable. But the impact, I think, has many different forms. I think on a very basic level, impact of the impact of awareness of an issue, I think is super important. And when I look at your films like 20 Days in Mariupol or 2000 Meters to Andriivka, that has an impact on me that allows me to be able to talk to other people about what's happening in Ukraine in a way that I wouldn't be able to do otherwise. So it's, I think with these films, all we can hope for. Listen, I don't claim that films can change the world, but I think films can change hearts, and I think films can impact people on a individual level, whether they are policymakers or whether they are voters who vote those policymakers into office. So I think there's many different ways that these types of films can sit in people's heads and hearts and make them think a little bit differently about issues.
Yiel, just could you tell me, did Rovina see the film? Did the family see the film? Has the community seen the film? I would love to know about this impact that is making in that community.
Rovina was able to see the film together with some neighbors. Very few of them. Its impact on her. At first, it somehow triggered her because Rovina lost her daughter, Jane, Sunday,
Jane,
and the film somehow reminded her of her own daughter. At some point, she was emotional that now this thought got triggered. But again, she was relieved because she thought, I mean, it's her belief that maybe the film would save some other gens outside there who she does not know might be living similar reality. It may be malnourished or may not even have food. Maybe the film would save them. And I think that somehow gave her some sense of relief after the film. That, at least to me, that was her immediate reaction after she was done watching it.
please tell me more about your relationship with Rovina, with how it developed, and what was happening during the filming of the film, and then how is it now?
My relationship with Rovina has somehow developed. I mean, not to the sense that now I feel myself more of a family member to them because I'm always there at least every week. I visit them. But at first, during the filming, sometimes I wondered, I even asked her, like, has she done this before? Has she filmed before, been filmed before us in any documentary or a movie or anything? She said no, but again, I wondered, like, how come at some point she stopped bothering. At some point she does not feel the camera around. And for me, this was somehow strange. I thought maybe she's doing it deliberately, but I think I just felt it's because she got used to me and me holding the camera. I think it was not something strange to her. So, I mean, that's how it became. And also with the kids, I think it became similar. At some point, they would come and play in front of the camera. They want to be taken. So I think it, there's somehow building of a rapport that happened, which was so quick. Then comes some.
I think probably she also felt that you're helping to save memory of Jane when it when she died. I think film does that, you know.
The first moment that you met her, Yiel, was the most dire moment for her too, wasn't it? It was those moments soon after the reality of Jane had set in. Do you remember that and how she's weathered that difficulty?
I remember that first moment we met her. I mean, at least me and you, we met her at home. But I mean, she was mourning Jane, and I think that for her was very difficult moment, as I just could imagine at that time, having lost, you know, Jane, and even it was difficult for her herself to even speak. But with time, and I was just happy we have somehow overcome that, and now I think maybe it could be more of necessity because now she needed to focus on the well-being of the other kids, and I think that maybe somehow changed her to she recovered from that shock of losing Jane, and then also I remember her eldest daughter, she could not raise her, so it's like, again doubled again by the food cuts that her kids don't have food. I think all that struggle for me, it's just difficult for somebody to fathom that somebody at one moment was living all that in one time.
Well, you did a great job, and um, I know it's not easy to be with people and to film people in such vulnerable moments. So it is quite extraordinary, the grace that you had to do so, to all of you guys. The way you tell the story, and the way you film, it's all it's so respectful. It doesn't feel voyeuristic in any way. It feels respectful and also needed. It feels like a story that needs to be told, not just, oh, let's talk about someone's pain. So the moments of pain feel justified and necessary, to see.
Thank you, Mstyslav. It's been really meaningful for us all to talk with you. We have such respect for your work, and to know that this film made an impact on you too is really meaningful. So thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mstyslav.
Thank you, man.
Of course,
I
yes.
appreciate it.
I wish you luck, and I thank you. It's
Thank you.
there are there are so many entertaining films